Hey guys, what's up? Brett Mix here from Ultra Wrestling 101. Hit like and subscribe if you like my content. We do history of wrestling every day. I think you'll enjoy that. Plus, I stick up to date with Raw and SmackDown reviews as well. Today, we're doing another SummerSlam. I'm going all the way to 2023, but we stop right now with the 2013 SummerSlam. It took place, as always, from the Staples Center of California. I say as always, considering the last 5 SummerSlams have been there, including this one. This is August 18th, 2013. I don't usually review the pre-show match, but I figured I'd do that because it was a good one. Rob Van Dam challenged U.S. champion Dean Ambrose for the U.S. title. The match went back and forth, and this happened about 25 minutes before the pay-per-view was set to begin, so you figured it was going to get enough time. And in the end, it ultimately went 14 minutes. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns made their way down for the Shield to watch their fellow Shield mate Dean Ambrose in the ring. Also, Mark Henry and Big Show's music hit to even up the odds, so they all stood at ringside. After there was a brief break of pumping out WWE 2K14, which had the 30 years of WrestleMania mode. I loved that game. But nonetheless, they had an advertisement for it, and they came back and the action resumed. RVD hit a somersault movesault for the dive, count at 2. Ambrose came back with a spine buster. They got an near fall. RVD came back with a variety of kicks and the Rolling Thunder. Van Dam went to the top to hit a 5-star frog splash, but before he could get there, Reigns ran in and hit the spear, disqualifying Van Dam and making Ambrose retain the U.S. title. I give the match 3 stars because it was a good match. It went about 15 minutes. And yeah, that was a good pre-show match. We begin SummerSlam with Pyro, 17,739 fans in the Staples Center. The main events are Lesnar and Punk and Cena-Bryan. And they begin the show with a Ring of Fire match, which is pretty much an Inferno match between Kane and Bray Wyatt. The ropes are all white, but there's flames all around surrounding the ring. And I thought it was great that they started the match with this, started the show with this kind of match, because usually at SummerSlams, or at pay-per-views, if they have an Inferno match, they'll put it in the middle of the card where the crowd can sometimes be dead. But the crowd was very active for this match because it was the first one, and the gimmick inside of it. Plus, if you're going to have Kane and Bray Wyatt go one-on-one, you're going to want some kind of stipulation, because the contrast in styles doesn't really sell for an exciting match. But they made this one watchable, at least. It wasn't very great. The Flames were there to keep the Wyatt family outside, but they found a way to come back in the ring, and there was no disqualification, so the referee couldn't disqualify anyone. And inside, they beat on Kane until Bray hit his sister Abigail for the victory at 7:49. So Wyatt went over. I gave the match 2 stars for creativity, but what they prevented ended up happening, so I can't give it more than 2 stars. So far we got 3 stars and 2 stars on the night, even though the night's just one match in on the pay-per-view portion. Next up, we had Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow. This was a quick little match that I felt could have been longer. It only went 6:40 as Rhodes came back to hit the crossroads after Damian Sandow hit his offense in the first half of the match. I give this match 2.5 stars. I would have liked to see a longer match, like I said. It was just when Cody Rhodes hit his finishing move, you had to figure that it would be the end, and it was, as mentioned, at 6:40. But up next, we had a World Championship match with Alberto Del Rio, the heel World Champion, defending it against the babyface Christian. So this was going to be a good a good match, and the two locked up, and it went back and forth. This was a very seesaw match, like a lot of Christian's matches are. I just reviewed Christian versus Randy Orton at the SummerSlam before this, and or 2 SummerSlams before this, I should say. And Christian likes to go back and forth. A lot of counter wrestling in this one as well. Good submission wrestling too. A lot of near tap out attempts. In the end, Christian hit a spear on Del Rio after injuring his bad shoulder, which he worked on throughout the match. He couldn't cover because he was in too much pain selling the injuries from before. So Del Rio slapped on a cross arm breaker. Christian tried to fight off, but he tapped out at the end at 12:30. So Del Rio retains his world title by submission. at 12:30, which was a great match with Christian. I give it 3.5 stars. Christian and Del Rio had really good chemistry in the ring, especially with a match where there was no wasted motion. The chemistry was great, as was the action inside, so 3.5 stars for that. Next up, we got Natalya with Naomi and Cameron versus Brie Bella with her twin Nikki and Eva Marie. All 6 ladies were a part of the E Network's Total Divas, so you had to wonder if that had to play, because Total Divas was a relatively new show at this time, and their ratings were probably at their peak in the second or third season here. I'm guessing. That's just what I remember from. I never watched the show. Have I seen parts of it? Sure, but I never watched it. I just remember seeing how it did in the ratings. And Brie was able to get a 2 count, followed by a running knee to the face. Natalya slowed her down with an Alabama slam, followed by a sharpshooter in the middle of the ring. Brie tapped out to the sharpshooter at 5:19. Good thing they kept it short. It wasn't too painful. It was a 1 star and 3/4 I'd give it. It was just a basic 5-minute Divas match. And from there, we go on to our 2 main events. And I can't really speak high enough about these 2 main events. CM Punk took on Brock Lesnar, and they added the no disqualification stipulation so Punk could realistically be in there with Brock. But then there's a caveat to that too, because what about Brock Lesnar's ability on his own? If you give Brock Lesnar a no DQ stipulation, he could come at you even harder. So CM Punk had to try to be in the advantage. It started off with Lesnar hitting Punk with these hard spears in the corner, just injuring his ribs the entire match with belly-to-belly suplexes on the floor, belly-to-belly follow-away slam in the ring when Punk flew off the top. Lesnar hitting a follow-away slam to Punk, taking him all the way across the ring. Lesnar just kicked the shit out of him for a bit, and then Punk hit his high knees with ruthless aggression, I'm going to say, but that's the only word that I could think of when I thought of Punk, with his face all like he's in a war, coming towards Lesnar and driving his knee right into his face. And he carried the offense after that as he went on the outside of the ring and he got the steps involved. Punk picked up the steps on the outside of the ring, and Lesnar, what he did is he rammed himself into the steps, which ran over Punk as a result on the floor. Lesnar then threw Punk all the way across the announce table, and then the top of the table dented, and Lesnar just rammed Punk into the barricade, exposing those ribs. No wasted motion in this match either. Punk then hit Lesnar with a chair. Lesnar and Punk continued the offense back and forth. Punk hit a flying elbow off the top, and then the Kimura lock was set on Punk, and he got to the ropes, and he countered it before he got into the ropes into a triangle choke. Lesnar then got to the ropes after that, and Lesnar hit 3 vertical suplexes in a row like Eddie Guerrero used to. Lesnar went outside the ring and he grabbed a steel chair, and Lawler looked at it and really put it over as what's Lesnar going to do with this chair? Lesnar just picked it up in the air as Punk flew at him and hit Punk in the ribs again. So Punk's ribs were really bothering him here as Lesnar just brutally dissected them. And Punk hit the go to sleep. Lesnar kicked out. Lesnar had him in the F5, but Punk grabbed onto Heyman's tie, and then Lesnar eventually had to drop him because he had Heyman's tie, and Lesnar was even saying, "Drop it, drop it." Heyman broke up the pinfall after a go to sleep. Punk then chased Heyman outside the ring and came back in, and Lesnar caught Punk for the F5, but he countered the F5 into a tornado DDT, which was an incredible counter. Punk then slapped on the Anaconda Vice. Heyman slid the chair in the ring. Punk punched Heyman in the face. He slapped on the Anaconda Vice again. Lesnar broke it up with the steel chair to the back. He hit Punk 3 times with the chair and then picked him up and to give an F5 onto the steel chair for the victory for Lesnar at 25-17. Awesome wrestling match here. Brock Lesnar wins 4.5 stars. I rate that. That was just entertaining from bell to bell. Just a pure war between both guys. And it was believable with Punk's offense coming from his weapons in the no DQ match. So that's one of the best matches. It makes my top 75 matches ever. Maybe even in the top 50. It's 4.5 stars. So it's tricky once I get to 4.5 stars because I have a match of 1,500 matches, 3.5 stars and up. And I believe every match 4.5 stars is in the 50 to 75 range. But this is one of the better 4.5 star matches, so that's why I think it's in the 75 range, because I think I've got about 100 above 4.5 stars. So I'm comfortably saying this is in that range. This is in that number section. Before the main event, we did get another match to break up the two main events, which is always good because you always want the crowd to get a breather in between. Dolph Ziggler and Caitlyn took on Big E Langston and AJ Lee. Outside the ring, Caitlyn hit a spear to take down AJ, but Langston hit a clothesline on Ziggler for the 2. Ziggler fought out of the big ending and then hit the zigzag for the win at 6:45. This was just a decent match. I give it 2 stars. Like I say, it was to separate the two main events, no more, no less. Next up, we had Daniel Bryan challenging John Cena for the WWE title. This was going to be Bryan's big moment. Michael Cole said, is he going to be the next Cena, the next Rock, or is he going to be the first Daniel Bryan? So the crowd were really behind Bryan here. Cena had his little bit of fans, the young fans and the girls screaming, but Daniel Bryan had the majority of the audience. I'd say about 90 to 10%. Triple H was the referee here, short-haired Triple H. So that would see what people want to know if that would be a factor. Cena had an elbow injury in the match and wore a protective sleeve on his elbow, and Daniel Bryan would try to exploit that. But in the early stages of the match, Cena hit his offense and then ran over to the doctor at ringside and said, my arm's just fine, and then he came back into the ring. Lawler put over how confident Cena had to be in order to do that. These two guys went toe-to-toe just like Lesnar and Punk did. Cena and Bryan hit their stereotypical offense, but every time Bryan hit Cena, there'd be a yes chant pretty much. This was right before the big yes movement and right before Bryan's big run at WrestleMania. So the fans were still into him, but they hadn't got quite to the peak yet, where that would be his run to WrestleMania and then that cage match with the Wyatts where he did the yes. You guys know what I'm talking about, in early 2014. This was just the summer of 2013, so that hadn't happened yet, but we were on the road here, and people thought this was Bryan's moment, as did Bryan. But did it end up that way? Well, let's see. Bryan worked on the left elbow injury of Cena. Bryan put Cena in the STF as the crowd chanted yes. He had Cena's own hold on him, and King said, what an amazing sight that would be. Cena put Bryan on the top ropes. Later in the match, he followed him there, and Bryan elbowed Cena repeatedly to break free. Bryan wanted the top rope Hurricanrana, but Cena was able to bounce out, and he ended up dropping Bryan on his face. Cena applied the STF in the middle of the ring. Bryan rolled out of it. Triple H was checking on Cena's elbow as Bryan hit 2 drop kicks into the corner. Fans chant, "This is awesome." Each guy had been through hell and back, hitting their finishers and having them kicked out. At the 25-minute mark, both were standing in the center of the ring, doing that big brawl spot where they're all slow and they're getting to their feet, and they both brawl very slowly while the fans chant yes and then no, or boo, I should say. Cena slapped Bryan. Bryan slapped Cena back. It was personal at this point. Bryan's beard is like a protective layer, and he won that battle because if he's pulling on to hair, he didn't get the slap. Bryan countered and added into a true adjustment into a DDT, so another insane counter. Bryan went to the top rope. He jumped off the top, but Cena caught him. Cena went for the AA, but Bryan countered that into an inside cradle for a 2, which was a huge close near fall. Bryan hit a hard running knee to the face of Cena. Triple H counted the pinfall at 3 when Bryan won the match after the knee to the face at 26:55. The winner and new WWE champion, Daniel Bryan. Another 4.5 star match. I gave Punk and Lesnar 4.5 stars. I'm giving Cena and Bryan 4.5 stars. An all-time classic. This is also in my top 75 matches. But it wasn't done. Bryan celebrated with the WWE title, and all of a sudden Randy Orton came out hinting he was going to cash in. but then walked to the back, and Bryan sort of just rested in that state. And all of a sudden, Orton turned back, looked back, then looked back to the Titantron again, and Triple H pedigreed Daniel Bryan as a big swerve. All of a sudden, Orton walked back, cashed in his Money in the Bank. Triple H had a smile on his face. Randy Orton then hit the 3 count. New WWE Champion Randy Orton for a 7th time. And Triple H smiled and lifted the championship, the briefcase, and the title with the new WWE Champion Randy Orton. So that's how we end SummerSlam, with a 4.5-star classic after another 4.5-star classic before that, and a swerve with a Money in the Bank cash-in with Triple H turning heel with a pedigree. This began Triple H's authority reign and Daniel Bryan's chase for the title, all beautifully in hindsight, even though that wasn't the original plan for Daniel Bryan to do the win in 2014. But now that he did, it just it ended and made the story all that much better when he won. Because if you think back to SummerSlam 2013, this night Triple H turned heel on him, so it was always about Triple H and Bryan to begin with. So sometimes hindsight's 2020, but sometimes the past ends up helping out the future, and it did in this case. At the time, I can see why Bryan fans wouldn't have liked the ending, but as I said, after 2014, it all makes sense, and it's in retrospect, it actually follows the story, and it helps how it all laid out. So SummerSlam 2013, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10, 2 4.5-star matches, plus a 3.5-star match between Christian and Del Rio. Not much bad on this card. There's a couple of matches in the 2-star category, but there's 3-star matches, 2 5.5-star matches. You gotta like the surprise ending. This SummerSlam was a 9 out of 10, one of the highest ratings for SummerSlam, one of the best SummerSlams of all time. That's SummerSlam 2013. Stay tuned for more SummerSlam reviews and more. Hit like and subscribe on the channel. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Brett Mix, and I'm out.